At the heart, I am a storyteller. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Tiffany Eddy, and I am the founder of Smart, Strong, Sassy. Smart, Strong, Sassy is a company designed to empower others by sharing stories and building lessons based off what we've learned from those stories. A little bit about me. I wasn't born smart, strong, sassy. Starting out, I was actually very shy, like seriously shy. I was that kid who hid behind their mother because I was afraid to use my voice. I shouldn't even be here right now because I wasn't born bold or confident. I was timid and I was insecure and afraid. And it's a tough way to live, always being afraid. Afraid of making a mistake, afraid of letting someone else down, waking up being afraid. And it's not because you're subjected to violence or intimidation, but because you're afraid of yourself. You're afraid of doing something stupid, and you're afraid of letting down a parent or a partner, a child or a friend. And I always hated the fact or the thought of disappointing anyone. So how did someone who is incredibly shy wind up as a broadcast journalist? Well, I was a broadcast journalist. I haven't gotten to that part of my speech yet, but we'll get there. So I never wanted to be on TV. I never wanted to be a broadcast journalist. I wanted to be a National Geographic reporter and travel the world and take pictures and write stories. But I got a job out of college working for a video production company in Hartford, Connecticut, and my boss at the time was so obsessed with TV news. Every day at noon he would go up to his office, and it was back when they had those cube TVs, and he would go up and he would watch and see what each station led with at noontime. And I learned so much about him, about voice and presentation and storytelling, that it inspired me to want to be a broadcast journalist. The only problem was that TV part, because the whole idea of speaking in front of people, forget about it. So then trying to speak on camera, no, absolutely not. Being in front of the camera for a shy girl like me was terrifying and absolutely overwhelming. But something inside of me wanted to give it a try. And I think there was something inside of me that decided that I wasn't going to let fear control my destiny. Eventually, I got a part-time job at a tiny little station in Springfield, Massachusetts, working minimum wage for 30 hours a week. I was the assistant to the news director. I probably really spent about 60 hours a week there hounding reporters to please, please, please let me go out with them on their stories and try to learn the ropes and how to unlock that magical secret that eluded me, how to have an on-air presence. There was an anchor at the station, and she was really nice to me, and she had absolutely nothing to gain, but for some reason she spent a great deal of time trying to help me and to build up my confidence, and that really meant a lot. Now, in TV, reporters do this thing called a stand-up. A stand-up frequently comes at the end of a story, and it ties the whole piece together. And it's where you might see the reporter on camera as they add their final summation to the piece, something along the lines of, the participants of the Silver Lining Summit thought that it was a terrific event and say they look forward to future gatherings. Tiffany Eddy, Silver Lining Summit. So that would be an example of a stand-up. I couldn't spit a stand-up out to save my life. Truly, I was practicing without much success. Truly, I was practicing without much success. So one day, this anchor woman, whose name was Linda, she invited me to go out on location with her, and she was doing a special report on an emergency drill at the Hartford International Airport. And while we were there and I was following her around, trying to learn by watching, she turned and she held her microphone out to me and she said, "Tiffany, do you want to do a stand-up?" I was like, who, me? Yikes. And there was all these people there. There was airport officials and there were firemen. And when she made that offer, all of a sudden I felt like everybody was looking at me. And I managed to take the microphone and I tried to do the very best stand-up that I possibly could for the very first time. Wasn't my finest hour, but I will let you be the judge. Today's
today's response teams are here in case of, oh God, hold on a second, sorry Doug, I've never done this before. Today's crash simulation is required by the FAA. Today's crash simulation is required by all... 3, 2, 1. Today's crash simulation. Today's 3, 2, 1. Today's mock emergency crash is something that's required by the FAA of all airports to do every 3 years. Say it one more time. 3, 2, 1. Today's mock emergency crash is something the FAA requires of all airports to do every 3 years so that emergency response teams can respond to a crash effectively and immediately. For Newswatch 3, I'm Tiffany Eddy.
So right there, obviously, I was scared. My heart was racing. I was sweating. Obviously, I couldn't speak. So how do you overcome something like that? I could have quit. And I can remember showing those outtakes to my mother, and even my mother, even she said, well, you know, I thought you'd make a really good lawyer. But I was so mad at myself, and I was so mad at my body for turning on me, and that uncontrollable adrenaline rush. My heart had been beating like a drum set, and I was sweating profusely, and the obvious inability to string a couple of words together without stuttering made me so mad at my body for basically what I considered to be a betrayal that I refused to quit. And I actually made a pact with myself that I would keep plowing forward until I didn't feel like throwing up and I didn't have my heart stuck in my throat. And then once I had gotten to that point where I could do it, then I would figure out what I wanted to do and move forward. But this was not going to beat me. And it took a really long time, and I must be incredibly stubborn because I left Springfield, Massachusetts, and I got my first real on-air job in Albany, New York, where I had a small, like a little tiny role, providing live updates on breaking news on the 11 p.m. newscast at the NBC affiliate, and I worked there for about 10 months until they fired me. Yes, they fired me. Not because I was a bad employee or I showed up drunk to work or anything like that, but because they said I was just not good on air. And they did offer me another job behind the scenes, but they said I did not have what it takes to be on camera. So I was heartbroken. I was really heartbroken, and I was ready to pack it in. But two things happened that night that helped me stay the course. Now, the first one was I called my then boyfriend, who was back home in Hartford, Connecticut, and I called him crying, saying, I got fired, I'm coming home. And I will never forget this. He said, yeah, you know, tonight's not a really good night for me. I've got a lot of work to catch up on. Let's chat this weekend. Now, if he had been there for me, I probably would have gone home, gone back to him, and allowed myself to be comforted and possibly would have given up on my crazy dreams. The second thing that happened that night is I had a female friend in the newsroom. She was a woman who was slightly older than me, and she had been trying to help me along. Her name was Monica, and she took me out that night. She got me drunk, and she gave me some tough love. And I'll never forget this. She said, this will be your last drink because you are going to go home. You are going to set your alarm for 7 a.m. You're going to get your shit together, and then you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to call every single news director within a 100-mile radius of here, and you're going to go out and you're going to get another job tomorrow. And because she said it and she believed it and she thought I could do it, within 48 hours I had a new job and I moved to a new city, Utica, New York. Not necessarily the best place in the world to live, but hey, I had a job and I got to do all sorts of different kinds of work, both on air and behind the scenes, and it was a perfect place and a perfect market to make mistakes in without the high pressure of a big city market, and it gave me the ability to get the experience I needed to move forward. By the way, the boyfriend Stuart, who hadn't been there for me that night, I did eventually break up with him, and I will never forget this because I had to go back to his apartment to pick up some of my belongings, and when I was getting ready to leave, he came out and he said, I can't believe I wasted my best years with hair on you. I can't believe I wasted my best years with hair on you. I think that said everything it needed to say about the relationship. A good one for the history books. Now, unfortunately, most of us do have Stuarts in our life at one point or another, and we need to make sure that we recognize them for who they are and take steps to mitigate them so they don't cause us damage or take advantage. But it's also important to have a Monica in your life, and it's really important to have that friend, that real friend, who's going to tell it to you straight, who's going to call you out when necessary and give you the tough love to help push you along even when you don't want to push yourself. When you get a Monica, it's very special. And it's not always easy because they don't just tell you the stuff you want to hear, they tell you the stuff you need to hear. And if you're lucky enough to have a person like that in your life, then you need to treasure them. After a rocky start, I ended up having a wonderful career as a broadcast journalist. I was able to be on some great teams and tell some stories that I believe made a difference. And I had lots of fun interviewing all sorts of interesting people and famous people and fascinating people. But the interview that was the most profound in my career, and perhaps my life, was somebody who wasn't famous. It was an ordinary woman who decided that she needed to share her story. And this was early on in my career. This woman had been abused by her husband. And after years of suffering, she finally got the courage to press charges. And when he went to jail, she decided that she wanted to share her story in order to help others. And I was the reporter, I was a cub, and I was the one who was sent out to interview her. And I remember putting the story together and watching it as it aired and hoping that when it did, it would do what she wanted and it would touch someone and it would make a difference. So fast forward a number of years later, and I was having lunch with a friend at a restaurant in Manchester, New Hampshire, and our waitress was acting really weird. She kept coming up like she was shy, and my friend said to me at one point, he's like, "What did you do to this woman?" And I was like, "I don't know, I've never seen her before in my life." And at the end of lunch, she came over and she said, "Tiffany, Eddy." And I was like, "Yeah?" And she said, "I want to thank you." I was like, "Thank me? Why would you want to thank me? I should be thanking you." She said, "Years ago, you told a story about a woman who had been abused." And she said, "That was me. And that was my life. And when I saw that story, it gave me the courage to get out of my situation. And today, I don't live in fear. So thank you." It wasn't my story. I was just a conduit to somebody else's story. But to me, it solidified in my mind that stories can be transformative. And they have the power to change someone's life. While I love telling other people's stories and making a difference, and career was extremely important to me, the stories that were most important were actually the ones that I was starting to miss on the home front. I was going to work every day at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't getting home until midnight, and my 2 kids were getting off the bus at 2:30, and we were basically missing each other during the week. And as any parent knows, those early years with your kids are precious and fleeting and something to be cherished. So after years of working to be a broadcast journalist, I left to have hours that allowed me to be the mom that I wanted to be. And I launched a PR media company, Tiffany, Eddy & Associates. We work with clients to elevate their visibility through positive PR and strategic initiatives, helping them with their presentation skills and media coaching. And it's great work, and we have wonderful clients, and I am grateful for absolutely all of them. But I had to admit, I also miss sharing stories, and I have never forgotten that woman in the restaurant and how a story that I had a hand in helping put out there changed her life. I launched Smart, Strong, Sassy to empower women and people, and I'm often asked about the name and how I decided upon it, and it's really easy. Partly it's aspirational. I mean, who doesn't want to be smart, strong, and a little bit sassy? But it also embodies all of the qualities of every woman whom I've ever admired. I mean, think about the women who you admire and what sort of qualities do they possess. I mean, they're smart and strong to have been able to persevere. And of course, sassy makes us all unique. I love the definitions of the words as well. And as you can see them behind me, because if you take the literal definitions, it's a good reminder on how to live each day. So being smart, having or showing quick-witted intelligence, someone who can act on their own accord, strong, able to perform a specified action well and powerfully, possessing skills and qualities that are also create the likelihood of success, and then of course sassy, which is the one that's I think the most fun to say, lively, bold, and full of spirit, feisty. Smart, strong, sassy has become my internal mantra. I might walk into a meeting sometimes and I'll repeat it in my head over and over again. I am smart, strong, sassy. I am smart, strong, sassy. And it works. It's transformative, at least for me. I feel like when I say it over and over again, I believe I can. And then when I believe I can, the possibilities are infinite. I wish I'd had a little smart, strong, sassy maybe in my earlier days when I was trying to get into broadcast journalism, because maybe it would have helped me develop the skills that I needed to have advanced much more quickly. But at least I found it later on in life. I love sharing other people's stories, and I feel like I've been so blessed to have so many opportunities. And the women that I've profiled on the website, they are incredible and they are inspiring, and I've learned so much from them. Sometimes people ask me about my own story, and I really don't feel like I have one. But I share with you today my story the best that I can to offer you encouragement. And what I would say is, don't be afraid to fail. I would say that if you are here looking to make a change, to find inspiration, to try something new, or refine something that you're trying to do, go for it. Don't try to be perfect. Perfection does not exist, except in movies and of course on social media where everybody's perfect. But we all have baggage. We all are imperfect. And just be the best version of you, whatever that looks like. It's funny, and this works better with a live audience than doing it on camera. But I wonder how many of you have ever taken a picture of a celebrity and brought it into the hairstylist and said, I want to look like that. Even though we might not have the same kind of hair, the same kind of face. You see the picture and you think, that's how I want to look. I know that I've done it before, and I might not even look like the woman or the celebrity, but I'm like, oh, damn, she's got some really good hair and I'd like to have the same kind of thing. But we bring those pictures in and we're trying to be someone else when really we just need to be ourselves. Because when you are smart, you can work on yourself to be the best version of you. And when you are strong, you can persevere even through tough times and learn from the setbacks, like things like getting fired. And sassy is that bold spirit that helps you light up a room and excite those who are lucky enough to be around you. I believe we all have the power to be smart, strong, sassy. So let me ask you, what makes you smart? Maybe it's taking the time to watch speakers in this summit. Are there ways that you could be smarter? What makes you strong? It could be working out or challenging yourself to do something maybe you're apprehensive about. It's different for everyone. I met a woman who lost her son to a drunk driver, and she told me that the toughest part of her day was in the morning, the moment that she wakes up and she remembers that he's gone. And she has to take a deep breath and force herself to pull off the covers and then take one step, one foot over the other and get out of bed. And taking that step, starting that day, and just getting out of bed, that is strong for her. So it's something different for everyone. And what's sassy for you? Now for me, it's doing something unexpected. I used to be afraid to speak in public, and now I'm sharing stories on camera and publicly. And for me, that's being sassy. So I wonder, what could it be for you? So I just encourage you to remember to be the best, smart, strong, sassy version of yourself, and the rest will fall into place. Before I go, we are here to help you, and if this talk resonated with you, if you would like to learn more about our company, please visit us on smartstrongsassy.com. We have online stories from other women who have faced some incredible challenges, and they share their journeys about who they are and how they managed to overcome the obstacles they faced and moved forward. And they have some just amazing, inspiring stories that I think could be very interesting to you. We are launching coaching, and we're also gearing up for some future workshops, so please feel free to reach out with us anytime you have questions or comments. We certainly would love and be honored to hear from you. So thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure to be part of the Silver Lining Summit, and hope you have a wonderful, smart, strong, sassy day. Thank you. Yay.
We finally finished.
Yay, we're done. So I just want to say thank you, a very special thank you to this amazing, oh, there she is, little thing right here, who served as my personal videographer during the story. It only took like a couple hours, right? And she's my little trooper and an awesome, awesome kid. So special thank you to Meredith.
Hi, Mama.
For your videographer services. Thank you. And it was a great market to learn in, and without the high pressure of, Meredith, can you stop doing all that? Like seriously? Like seriously?
I'm doing an ab workout.
Can you do the ab workout like not in front of me?
I promise I'll stop. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
There's not enough wine. Oh, spider.
No. Wait.
Did you see it? Do you see it? Did you see that?
killed it.
Did you kill it?
Oh my goodness.
Seriously.
Where did that thing come from that you like was as big as the mug? All right.
I'm putting.
Okay, take 14.
Thank you.
Oh my God, that was crazy. Oh, I saw it going through. I was like, oh my God, it's like a tarantula.
Mom, where'd that come from?
I don't know. Yeah.
We should make a blooper.
Okay, ready?